Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 14th meeting for the Light Body Manifestation Program. I am Mercedes Kirkel, the facilitator for this program, and I am very glad that you're all here once again. So welcome back. And we've had a couple of really big sessions the last few times. It started with our healing session, and then we went into the last session of entering into the sacred space of the heart. And this is also an important session today. Today we're going to be focusing on another aspect of our energetic heart, and it's what I call the inner temple of the heart. But before we go into that, I want to take some time to really hear from everyone. So I really want to, the last couple of times we haven't had so much time for sharing at the beginning because we've had so much to do. This session we're more spacious, which I'm really happy about. And I would like to catch up and find out what's going on with everyone. And in particular, I want to review what we went over last week, which was we had the second portion of our healing, the completion portion, to see if there was anything else that wanted to release before we moved on. And then we did our work with going into the sacred space of the heart. So I'd love to hear especially about those two things. And really wanting to get a feeling for people's experiences with the sacred space of the heart, whether you feel like you've been able to go into the sacred space of your heart, and if you feel comfortable sharing, what your experiences have been when you've done that. So I am now opening up the space to hear from all of you, and whoever so moved can begin.
Oh.
Great.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
So, I loved going into the sacred space of the heart, and I felt that I could do it really easily. So that felt really good. Like I felt like, and I could always feel like when I went around in the back and it just like dropped in, and it just made my meditation so peaceful. Like much more centered and peaceful, and just like even after I was done, like I just felt I felt different than when I just would meditate other ways. So I feel like there was more love and more peace. And something that may be like a side effect of that is that then, I've been just like out in nature, and it's like everything looks like more beautiful. Like just I feel like that's been happening all week. I'm like, this earth is so beautiful. Like everything is just so beautiful. Like, so I feel like that may be, it's affecting my perception of things. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And what that reminds me of is actually experiences that I've had when I journeyed on ayahuasca. And when I did that, I was living in Hawaii and was able to do these outdoors in the jungle. And I remember noticing the plants coming alive, and they were so vibrant. They were this intense color of green, and this was at nighttime. But also they were just so alive, and I was like, where have I been all this time? There's so much going on, and I just haven't noticed it. I couldn't believe, where have I been living?
I know, I love that, because it was like the same trail I walk like all the time. And that's how I felt. I was like, everything's so alive. Like there's so much, I'm like hugging the trees. I'm like, this is just so beautiful. So yeah. And everything is so alive. It's so interesting. Like I kept asking myself that. I'm like, did I just not notice this before? Or I don't know. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So would someone else like to share their experiences? First, whether you feel like you were able to get into the sacred space of the heart, and then what you've experienced in doing that, or anything related to the healing.
This is Joy. I think I feel like I've been able to get into the sacred space of the heart, but kind of just beginning. And for some reason, I've been a little nervous about it. And so I've been really kind of depending on my angel. And when I go into it, I think I've mentioned, I feel like I'm holding my angel's hand. and and so when I'm in there, right now it just feels like a little space, I'm just in a little like enclosed space. And so I think though that will kind of change in time. I just feel like that'll change in time. So it feels like it's just beginning. So thanks.
And how do you feel when you are in the sacred space of the heart?
I don't notice much feeling. And so, yeah, of course, at the same time that I'm doing this, I'm doing a lot of other things, also, like Michelle was talking about, I'm out in nature a lot and feeling very expansive there, really noticing a lot. So I don't know. Yeah, so more to practice, I think, for me.
Okay. Can I ask you a few questions?
Of course.
Do you feel comfortable when you're in the sacred space of the heart?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that I do so much. Yeah.
So is there something about it that feels a little edgy, scary?
It feels confining somehow. Yeah, I'm not sure why. Yeah. It's interesting because I think I'd mentioned to you, I'm doing another practice where going into a Akashic room and then going into another room. And so that, for some reason, that felt different. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know why exactly. And it may be just that this is new and I just need to work with it a little bit more. That's kind of what it feels like at the moment.
I'm reminded of something in you talking, and I'm not sure this is the same thing, but it might be. So I want to mention it, and I'll leave it up to you to decide if it feels like this might apply or not.
Mm-hmm.
When I was learning this technique from Drunvalo Melchizedek, he said that if there's wounding in the heart, that it can feel like a very cold place.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that it takes courage, that if you stay in that place and go through it, that coldness will dissolve.
Mm.
And then your experience of the sacred space of the heart will open and fit.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't feel like cold. You know what I mean? So it's not like that extreme, but that definitely, I think that's helpful. And I think that's good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else would like to share their experience of first, whether you feel like you've been able to get into the sacred space of the heart, and then if there's any experiences you would like to share relative to the sacred space of the heart, the healing that we've done, or anything else coming up?
Hello, this is Rajender.
Hello.
When we did it that night with you, it was fairly easy for me. I felt like actually like dropped into like a yogi's cave. Is that what it felt like?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt a lot of stillness and power, and then oneness with all that is. And I got a message that in that space, the power of prayer is really there, powerful. And, you know, like you had taught earlier, to ask if it's in their best interest and highest good, to pray for them. And then I did it again on my own and had similar experience, but maybe not as powerful. And then the third time, I had trouble. Like I felt like I was just recreating it in my mind.
Mm. Yes.
And then I haven't been able to do it since then.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is very common, where initially when you go into the sacred space of the heart, oftentimes people have very powerful experiences of one sort or another. And as you continue going into the sacred space of the heart, the experiences tend to not be the case. You don't tend to have those same kind of experiences. And it's easy to fall into doubt, like, oh, nothing's happening, or I'm not there. But actually, it's just more of it's more of an awareness of being in sacred space as opposed to any particular experience arising.
Okay.
And so, yes, I had very dramatic experiences when I first entered my sacred space, and I don't anymore. But I definitely have a sense that I'm there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I would actually like to hear from everybody. So if you haven't shared yet, I'd like a check-in.
Hi.
Hi.
I have two different experiences regarding to my heart. The first is that when I meditate, I figured this out on my own when I was younger. I'm not able to meditate with quieting my mind, but if I focus my attention to my heart and I listen with my heart, then I'm able to meditate. So this is something that I have done regularly. But the back of my heart has always been a very sensitive and how do you say it, vulnerable spot for me physically. So for instance, I will often ask my husband to put his hand there or put his arm around me, or I want to have a blanket around my back. And it feels me connected to physical safety, like I don't feel safe on that spot. But so with the meditation, it was very awkward for me to go there. And I don't have that when I drop from my mind to my heart, but I do have it if I go to the back of my heart. So it wasn't easy for me to go into the heart from that direction.
Did you feel like you were able to?
I did feel the sucking power, like being sucked into it. I did feel that, but I think I had fear of surrendering myself to the experience because of this strange thing that I have with the spot.
Interesting. It sounds like past life carryover.
Yeah, it feels like I would be I could be attacked on that spot like any minute. It's something very vulnerable.
Yes. Yes. So today we are going to go in a different way into the heart, and this might be a lot easier for you. So we're not going to go in through that pathway.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. So I would very much like to hear if it makes a difference for you.
I will let you know.
Okay. And any other experiences that you've had that you are open to sharing?
Yes, I've really noticed that when I think about the Heavenly Father and the Earthly Mother, that there's a kind of sexual exchange or some kind of feeling of unity, and it also makes me feel more in love with my surroundings. And I didn't expect that to happen, so I was surprised by it. And I also noticed that I do have shifts of being more in my heart at certain points, like somewhere during the day when I'm not actively involved with practice.
Yeah. Yay! I'm happy to hear all those things. Thank you. Okay, let's see, Michelle. Oh, no, Michelle already shared. I'm sorry, Jennifer.
Hello.
Hello. Glad you're here. Did you
you.
hear what we're sharing about?
I did. Our experience of last week's meditation and subsequent ones, right?
Yeah. And anything related to the healing, anything around that, if there is anything that you want to share.
Okay. Well, last week I was in my office. I was in an office, and so I was in a different physical space. But I felt kind of like going down a slide or a tunnel, but like I had that feeling of, like, when you go down an elevator or a slide and you have that feeling in your stomach or whatever. I did have that feeling, and it reminded me of a little bit of the I've done some work in my Akashic records, and so through this prayer process, and it was a similar experience in that I felt like I was in this chamber that was really deep underwater, like under the sea. I don't know why that's what it feels like, that I'm in water or around water, but I'm in a safe, like, chamber or capsule, like old ancient room looking feeling place, because I didn't see anything. It was just that feeling, and it was a very calm and serene, and I had to get out. When I got out of there, I didn't have a lot of time to spend after, because I had to go to a board meeting. And so I grounded myself, and I'm on a 12-acre campus. And so I just really just, kind of tried to connect myself when I walked on this path to the board meeting. And I just felt really calm throughout this whole meeting. And it wasn't an easy it wasn't an easy meeting, like the topics, but I just felt very grounded and calm, and it eventually went away, but I felt like the first, 20 minutes of that meeting I just felt really great. And then when I did it on my own, I didn't have all of that experience of the chamber or the slippery slide tunnel. But I had, it was last night, it was just this really powerful message about this amazing freedom of choice that I have. or we all have, but that was this, and I really felt the presence of my angels and more angelic presence or guides, loved ones. I don't know. I felt very surrounded by, masters, teachers, kind of beings. And what was the other thing I was going to share? Right before all of that entity clearing stuff, I had this very weird experience that it was like a child or a baby, and they said their name was Chelsea, and that they had been with me for a long time but had to leave. And I thought that was interesting. I think that was right before the slide, going in, like when we were doing the clearing, or when we had asked the beings to go to the Michaelic, light. So
beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to say a few things about that came up for me. Is that all right?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Your description of it being underwater, my first experience in going into the sacred space of the heart was definitely an oceanic experience. And your particular description connected for me with the energy of Lemuria and the Lemurians, which may very well be part of what you're tapping into and part of your lineage. And that some people connect also the whales and the dolphins, but especially the whales, with keepers of the Akashic record. And so it's not surprising to me at all in that sense. And then when you said you felt the presence of the masters and teachers all around you, this may be part of the prayer you are using. When I go into the Akashic records and do readings for people, I call on the masters, teachers, and loved ones of the Akashic record. So that to me is very strongly connected to the Akashic record space. So I am very happy for you. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to say was, when we were doing the final clearing last week at the beginning, it's a dim memory, but what I'm remembering from what I experienced was right at the beginning, there was an entity that was really ready to go, and it just went zip, and it just like made a beeline, like, I'm ready, I'm going by. And I'm not sure if that was the one that you're referring to, but I thought maybe. It was like it had been thinking about it for a week. It was real ready.
Yeah, because I got the name the first time, and when we asked if they were ready to go, and it's so interesting because it's such the practice of the approach of this, like a loving approach with the entities, is so different than, if anything here isn't in my highest good, you must leave now, kind of.
Right. The warrior approach.
It's just completely different approach, and I absolutely love that gentle, loving approach. And like you said, yeah, give them a week, and then they're first thing out. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else anybody wants to share? Anything get stimulated for you and hearing other people's shares before we go on? Okay. Well, I am delighted to hear what everyone is saying. To me, we've crossed over a big milestone in going into the sacred space of the heart. And I didn't want to say anything going in because I didn't want to set up any negative expectations or fears in people. But it's not, many people have a hard time going into the sacred space of the heart. And I was feeling very confident that because of the work that we did leading up to this, and even the Magdalene Heart Path work, before this course, but definitely the work we did in the first section of this program with our first 3 chakras and with forgiveness and self-forgiveness, that I felt confident that everyone was well prepared and that we would be able to do this. But it's a kind of an initiation from my point of view when you make that crossover into going into the sacred space of the heart. And I'm really, really celebrating what I've heard from everyone, including Maria, who, as I said before we started, couldn't be here tonight, but she wrote me, and she is also working in the sacred space of the heart. I don't want to share her experiences without her permission, but I feel comfortable saying that much. So what that means to me is we're all here and we're all on board, and I am so celebrating. So the rest of the process is, from my point of view, much easier. So you've done great work, and I really want to acknowledge all of you that this is huge, what you have done and what you have accomplished. So for me, this is really, really exciting. I had a really hard time waiting until this class to hear everyone's report. And I feel relieved and joyful to hear what everyone is saying. So, and it's oftentimes the case that we're not at a final point, even with this step, that things may continue to unfold relative to your space and going into the sacred space of the heart. But I am really seeing the way open for everyone, and I'm just really happy about that. So I wanted to share that. And with that, I want to start talking about the new material we're going to cover tonight. So I first want to talk a little bit about what the inner temple of the heart is. And to me, the inner temple of the heart is a very, very special place within the sacred space of the heart. So it's enclosed, you might say, depending on how you're experiencing space when you're in the sacred space of the heart. But in some sense, it's contained within the sacred space of the heart, but it's just one small portion of it. And when Dremvelo was describing his inner temple of the heart, I think I mentioned last week that his sacred space was very much of a cave, and with writing on the walls that were kind of pictographs. And to me, that very much related to his lineage, which had a lot to do with Native American and South American indigenous people that he has a very strong connection to. And when he went, there was in his sacred space, there was some kind of a partition, like a cave wall, that he couldn't see around until he went into the inner temple of the heart. And there he was guided into that space, and that was a very amplified space of great sacredness. And that's how he experienced it. My experience, when I went into my inner temple of the heart, and I think I mentioned last week also that my sacred space of the heart was very much of like an ancient temple, which makes sense to me given my lineage and background. And that the inner temple of the heart was what I would call the Holy of Holies. It was this very sacred part of the temple that was reserved for only the highest, most prepared priests and priestesses. And in my sacred space, it was only for me. But it was what I would call this, very high chamber. And the words that came to me was Holy of Holies, which you can read about if you read about the ancient temple in Jerusalem or the tradition of the ancient goddess temples in the Middle East, that they had this very special chamber. So that's two examples. And Who knows how yours might show up? But hopefully that gives you a flavor of possibility of what it is. And for me, the inner temple of the heart is your very personal space of God connection. Whereas the sacred space is this immense space of connection with all of creation through all of the Akashic records. The inner temple of the heart is very personal to you. It is your unique sacred space that's uniquely and singularly yours. And as part of that, the inner temple of the heart is where your higher self resides. And so when you go into the inner temple of the heart, you have direct access to your higher self, which you may already feel that you have that, which is wonderful, or perhaps you feel that you haven't previously connected with your higher self. But by going into the inner temple of the heart, that's where you will, another way, and from my point of view, a very direct way of connecting with your higher self. And there's also a connection between your inner temple of the heart and everyone's inner temple of the heart. It's that connection of oneness. And the way that that manifests is a connection between your higher self and the higher self of other beings. So when we talked about healing and how you can talk to someone else's higher self and ask their higher self permission, this is where it's really coming from, is from you connecting with your higher self in this space of the inner temple of the heart. So it's a space where you also can connect with others through their higher self, because there's this incredible connection, this web of connection between all beings' higher selves in this space. Another aspect of the inner temple of the heart is that time is what you might call spherical, or you might call unipresent. It's that the past, the present, and the future are all occurring together in the inner temple of the heart. So this means that you have the possibility of connecting with other beings in other times when you're in the inner temple of the heart. So you not only have the possibility of connecting with beings in other spaces through connecting with their higher self, but also beings from other time periods, including yourself in other time periods, because all time is existing in the inner temple of the heart. Similar to the sacred space of the heart, when you go into the inner temple of the heart, it is most often dark. And so I suggest, if it is, that you go through the same process as in the sacred space of the heart, where you ask for there to be light. And then just notice, and it may come in different forms. It may come immediately. It may come slowly. It may come later when you're not expecting it. It may come all of a sudden with brightness. It may slowly come up like a dimmer. It may have a different quality to the light, like moonlight or luminescent light, or a different kind of light than maybe you have experienced at other times. But I do encourage, if it is dark, that you ask for there to be light. And then, similar to the sacred space of the heart, the inner temple of the heart has a frequency also, but it's a different frequency from the sacred space of the heart. Most people experience it about an octave higher. So if you're musical and you relate to what an octave is, then that'll give you some sense. And if that's not meaningful for you, just know that you're very likely to hear this as a significantly higher pitch tone than what you heard in the sacred space of the heart. So, any questions about all of that? Okay. Well, if questions come up, definitely let me know. So tonight we are going to go into the inner temple of the heart. And the way that we do that is we go first into the sacred space of the heart. And then once we're in the sacred space of the heart and connected there, have asked for there to be light, have connected with the frequency, then we're going to continue from there into the inner temple of the heart. But we're going to go into the sacred space of the heart and the inner temple of the heart in a different way. The way that we went in last time was what I called the masculine way. And the masculine way is where there's a route and we're following a certain route and certain, directions and guidelines and signposts, and we're following that. And this time we're going to go in the feminine way. And the feminine way, you'll see, is significantly different from the masculine way. I think the feminine way is simpler, but that doesn't mean it's easier. So I would like everyone to try it this way, and then you're free to use whatever way works for you. So if you find, oh, I really enjoyed the masculine way more, great, stick with it, use it. If you find, oh, that feminine way was just great, that really is what I like, great, use it. If you find that, oh, sometimes I like one way, sometimes I like another way, great, use it. Or you might even be shown a different way that becomes your way. So these are all possibilities. There's not one right way or the way you should be doing it. It's the way that supports you and helps you. But I would like you to try it for this meditation so you get an experience of both ways, and then you can start to take it from there. So the feminine way is that we just move. We just start moving. Remember, well, maybe I haven't talked about this so much, but the feminine loves movement. The masculine is one of the characteristics of, especially the higher masculine, is stillness. And the feminine is motion and movement. So for the feminine way, we just go into movement and we ask that we be taken to the place we want to go, and that when we get there, the movement stops. So we'll know that we're there because we've stopped moving. It's very simple. So that's the essential technique we're going to use tonight for going both into our sacred space and into our inner temple of the heart. So let me give a little bit more specific instructions about what we'll be doing so that you know what's going to happen. So we're going to start again with the same foundation of connecting with Mother Earth, Father Sky, and Divine Child, where they come together at our heart. That is the foundation that we always begin with for this whole practice. So same. So we're going to begin with that. And then we're going to go back up into our pineal chakra and feel ourselves centered for the purposes of this meditation, that we're beginning centered in our pineal chakra. And we're going to, again, feel ourselves moving down to the throat and then moving just directly to the heart. And when we get to the heart, inviting that we're moving through the membrane around the heart and into the heart. And then just continue moving with the request and the intention that we move into the sacred space of the heart, and that when we stop, we'll be there. So that's the process, and I will be talking you through that. And then when we get into the sacred space of the heart, we'll once again ask for light and take a moment to see how that manifests. And then we'll feel the vibration. You don't need to hum tonight. If you want to, you're welcome to, because you're all going to be muted, but you don't need to. But do listen for it. That's valuable. And then we're going to do the feminine process again, which is to say, I'm going to move, and when I stop, I will be in the inner temple of the heart. And then let yourself do that. And then from there, I'm going to give you a few minutes for you to get acquainted, notice what you're experiencing in the inner temple of the heart. And I will suggest that you ask for there to be light and notice what occurs. And then to notice the frequency, if you want, you can hum it. It's up to you. And again, it will probably be a higher pitched frequency than what you experience in the sacred space of the heart. And then I'm going to suggest an activity that you engage. And again, I will be talking you through this so you don't have to remember it. But this is the activity that I'm going to suggest. I am going to suggest that you invite in your higher self and that you have a conversation with your higher self. Whatever you want to ask or get to know about your higher self, or ask your higher self about yourself or other things, or whatever your higher self might be moved to share with you, this is your time to get acquainted if this is your first time connecting with your higher self, or reacquainted and find out what it is that your higher self has for you tonight in this moment. So that's what I'm going to suggest. And then I will leave. And what I'm going to do is just mute myself, turn off my camera. And you're going to have about 25 minutes at that point to be with your higher self. And then I will come back. So this time we're going to stay. I'm not going to close the meeting. We're going to stay in the meeting because we have enough time. So I will come back and let you know that it's time to bring yourself back. And at that point, you do not need to leave your inner temple of the heart. You can stay there as long as you're able. At a certain point, you'll notice that you probably have left. It just happens, you know, we usually can only stay there for so long, and then it's just a natural process where we leave that space. But you can let yourself stay there if you choose. And then we're going to come back into our meeting space, and then we'll share about what we experienced, both in terms of going into the inner temple of the heart, in terms of the feminine way and how that worked, and also any experiences you feel open to sharing relative to what happened in the inner temple of the heart and your connection with your higher self. So that's what we'll be doing. Any questions? Uh-oh, I just see a text from Ava saying she lost connection to Zoom and lost the last 5 minutes. Are you back now, Ava? Oh, you're back now. Okay. What's the last thing that you heard?
About going into the sacred space with movement. And then it was really strange because you first went, I couldn't hear you, and then it was definitely Zoom. It wasn't my internet connection. But I'm able to go with the flow. So
okay. So did you hear that's the basic feminine way, and we'll be doing that to go into the sacred space and then later into the inner temple. And did you hear the activity we're going to do, the meditation, where we're going to we're going to ask our, okay, let me go back and make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Then you're going to invite in your higher self and have a conversation with your higher self.
Okay.
You can ask your higher self anything you want to ask. They may have things that they want to share with you, and it'll last about 25 minutes. And during that time, I will mute myself. I'll turn off my camera, but I'll still be in the meeting. And then I'll come back and let you know that it's time to come back. Okay. So you don't have to time yourself for this. I'll let you know, but it'll be about 25 minutes. And then we'll come back and then share what we experienced in terms of the feminine process, you know, how that was for people, if people felt like they were able to go into the inner temple of the heart. And then if you feel open to sharing any experiences you had, either just your experience in the inner temple of the heart, or any experiences with your higher self?
Okay.
Great. Thank you. And I'm so glad you're back. I see this all the time. Oh, what was that? I missed that. Okay. I see this all the time in my work with people that I do long distance, that very, very often I will lose the connection with people when the energy goes up. And lots of times the energy goes up because I'll have touched on something that has a charge for a person. But there can be all kinds of reasons why the energy goes up. But I see this all the time. I'm so used to it. I usually laugh, and sometimes people wonder why I'm laughing, but it's because it happens so often. Okay, anything else anyone needs to share, or any questions before we begin?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Will you please explain the moving into the heart? Because it sounded pretty much like the same direction.
Okay. Ooh, now I'm having challenges. I lost the last part of what you said.
Time. So
Okay.
I'm not sure what.
So it sounds similar to the last time.
Yes, please. Would you explain how the movement is?
How it's different.
Yes.
Okay. So last time we moved down to the front of our heart and faced our heart. And then we turned a quarter turn, so our right shoulder was next to our heart. And then we walked or moved around the heart with our right shoulder next to it. And then we faced again towards the heart, but now we are facing the back. And then we were sensing or observing or feeling for this vortex energy, this opening. And then we let ourselves go with that, be pulled in, kind of like a suction or a slide or something like that. And then we were in the sacred space of the heart. This time, we're just going to say, I'm going to move. And when I stop moving, I'm there. So it's much simpler. We're not going through all the, I'm doing this, I'm turning, I'm rotating, I'm looking for this, I'm going in. We're not doing all of that. We're going to do the same process to begin with, moving down towards the heart, and then just tell ourselves to move inside the membrane surrounding the heart, and then to keep moving. And when we stop, we're in the sacred space of the heart. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Bathroom break before we start?
Absolutely. 2-minute bathroom break. And for everybody else, we will be sitting up for this meditation in your asana, but I do want you to have your mindful eye shade. So if you don't have that, please get that.
This is Joy. I'm back.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, I think we're all here. So I invite you to put on your eye shade. Everybody is muted. That's great. And then situate yourself so you're in your comfortable asana with your spine comfortably straight. And let's begin with relaxing our belly, letting our breath drop all the way down into our pelvis and become even. Relaxing your shoulders, allowing your chest and heart region to open. Relaxing the back of your neck and your jaw so that your head is balanced on the top of your spine. And relaxing all the muscles in your legs, especially the large muscles at the tops of your legs. So there's a feeling of connection between the soles of your feet and the crown of your head. And now place your awareness in your heart. If you like and it helps you, you can place your right hand over your heart. And then from your heart, send love to Mother Earth's heart. And after you feel the connection between your heart and Mother Earth's heart, notice when you feel Mother Earth's love being sent back from her heart to your heart. And if it supports you to feel this, you can place your left hand over your right hand. Receiving Mother Earth's love from her heart back into your heart. And letting your whole self fill with Mother Earth's loving energy. Allow this connection with Mother Earth the giving and receiving of love between you and Mother Earth to continue. And now shift your awareness to sending your love to Father Sky in one of Father Sky's forms. Sending love from your heart to Father Sky, perhaps in the form of the sun, a star, the Milky Way, the great central sun of our universal system. Whatever form you feel a connection to in this moment with Father Sky, feel the connection and send love from your heart to Father Sky in that form. And when that connection feels strong, notice Father Sky's love coming back to your heart in the form of light. Let your whole self be filled with Father Sky's light. And then center your awareness at your heart and feel yourself as the divine child, receiving both Mother Earth's love and Father Sky's light. Feel them both loving and blessing you, even as they love each other. Feel the connection at your heart between all three, the Holy Trinity of Mother Earth, Father Sky, and you as the divine child. And now shift your awareness up to your pineal chakra. And just for now, feel yourself centered at your pineal chakra. And from this place at the pineal chakra, you are going to begin to move. First moving down into the throat, and then continuing to move down to the heart. When you get to the heart, you're going to move inside the membrane that surrounds the heart. And then you're going to continue to move until you are at the sacred space of the heart when you come to rest. When you stop, you are in the sacred space of the heart. Notice if it is dark. If it is, ask for there to be light. Listen to and feel the frequency in the sacred space of the heart, and tune yourself to that frequency. If you like, you can hum with the frequency. Take a short time to look around, feel, notice what you experience in the sacred space of your heart. And now we are once again going to move. And when you stop, you will be in the inner temple of the heart. Let yourself move. And when you stop, you are in the inner temple of the heart. Take a few minutes to experience and get acquainted with the inner temple of the heart. If it is dark, ask for there to be light. Notice the frequency that you hear, feel, or sense in the inner temple of your heart. If you like, you may hum the frequency. As a way of imprinting this frequency into your memory to help you to return here. Now you can ask and invite your higher self to join you in the inner temple of the heart. This higher self may be from this time, or it may be from another time, perhaps even another dimension. Whatever time, space, or dimension your higher self comes from, it knows you intimately. It can communicate intimately what you want to know and what it wants to give you. This is perfect guidance. So let yourself have a conversation with your higher self. I am going to leave you now, and I'll be back in about 25 minutes. I invite you to begin to come back now. You don't need to leave the inner temple of the heart to come back. You can stay there as long as you're able. When you're ready, gently open your eyes and return to the space of our meeting. And welcome back. So, if anyone is open to sharing, I know this can be a big transition. I would love to hear how that was for you to practice the feminine way of entering the sacred space in the inner temple of the heart. Whether you were able to sense that you entered your inner temple of the heart, and what your experiences were, if you're open to sharing.
I'll go.
Thank you.
So it was interesting. I found like with the feminine way, it was more like when I would enter through the masculine way, it was more like, I don't know if the word was transcendent or not, like human. When I went in through the feminine way, it was like my human heart, if that makes sense. So I thought that was really interesting because I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm in my actual human heart. And then it was interesting too, because when I went into the second part, I actually, my heart felt like when I went in there, it was like burning. And then I don't know if anyone was supposed to be in there, but like then when I turned on the light, Jesus was in there. And that was like just like even when you were saying like access your higher self, like I was like, I just want to sit here with Jesus. Like, I don't know. So, I don't know what happened. Then it just, it was just, we just spent some time together. So that was amazing. It was just, yeah, I can't even, like, the words aren't even coming to me. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Just one other thing that I saw in there, just because I when I was trying to access my higher self, like instead of hearing words, like I would just see images, and I saw like this image of just like people practicing sacred sexuality, and I don't really know what that was about, but it was just like a very clear image. So I just wanted to share that. So.
Did you say that was in the sacred space of the heart?
It was when I was trying to access my higher self, I was asking like what my purpose was, and I just saw like this flash of like all these people practicing sacred sexuality, and then that was it. So I thought that was interesting. They weren't in my sacred space with me, but they were
Yes,
It's kind of
that's
just
what
like
you were
a,
shown. Yes,
yeah, that's what I was shown. So, mm.
thank you. So what else did people experience?
I had this at the start. I had this interesting that feeling of that toroidal energy. When we were, it was stronger than usual with the Mother Earth, Father Sky. This just incredible toroidal energy and then with me being the divine child at the center of my heart. And then the entering the feminine way just felt much more natural. I don't know how to it just felt more natural, I guess I could just say. What else? Moving from the sacred space into the inner temple, I had this spiraling feeling. I still couldn't see anything, even though I asked for the light. But I had this spiral feeling. But then the spiral, to go into the inner temple, the spiral was going up. I was going up, almost like there was like another little chamber from the sacred space to the inner temple, but it was an upward feeling, not a downward feeling. It was a spiral up. And then when I connected with my higher self, the message I got was, a couple of messages were that, and I don't really know what this means because I don't know much about the, what was it? The crystalline energy field or grid, that I had access to use that as a like healing modality or something like that, which I've never worked with that. I have no idea what that even means. But it was very clear. And then the other beautiful thing was this, I can't remember the question I asked, but this idea of my reconnection with God, that relationship heals all my relationships. That was very clear. And then going back to that crystalline energy, so I said, well, could I use that? Liam, my little boy, he's sick. He has strep throat and he has all these sores in his mouth right now. So I said, well, could I use that to heal Liam's mouth right now? And I got a yes. And so then I just started to really just really love Liam. I don't know how else to explain it. And said, well, if I had access to this crystalline energy, and then imagined, healing his mouth kind of. And then he came banging on the door from the other room, banging, mama, mama, mama. So then I came out of the meditation.
That's great.
That was it.
Wow.
So I didn't stay in it as long as, the 25 minutes or whatever you gave me, because, but it was very beautiful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When I first dropped into the sacred space of my heart, for a brief moment, it felt very vividly that my body was a liquid.
Oh.
And it startled me very much, so it stopped. But it triggered for me a kind of a wave of a remembrance of knowing about this happening. And it felt like I would be able to transport myself. When my body would become liquid, then I would be able to travel.
What, Ava?
Yeah.
that was the sacred space of the heart?
Yes.
Great.
And then when I went into the inner temple, it was dark, but I associated it with Black Madonna. And I don't know much about the Black Madonna, only that I feel connected to it in some way. But I saw a necklace, a jewelry with connected by, with all kinds of roses and connected by a chain. And that felt really comfortable to me. And the message I got was that my heart did have a heaviness in it, but it will heal when I stop deny who I am. And also because the message was that I've been denying who I am for such a long time that I'm reluctant to stop doing that. But when I will acknowledge who I am and remember, then my heart will heal.
Thank you. And was it easier using the feminine way of going in?
Definitely. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
The other thing that was interesting in the inner temple was it felt like the most vast space that I've ever felt and the smallest space I've ever felt at the exact same time.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I have to share something with you here.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Back in 97, I went through my spiritual awakening that I felt I had been working towards for many years. And it happened in 1997. And at the moment when I awakened, my exact experience was of being completely infinite and simultaneously one single point. And there was a lot that connected to, but that was the moment of like awakening and the experience that I had. Sounds very similar. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to share I had that same feeling that it was so small but so expansive, and my I felt like this like clarity in my consciousness, like it was so, I don't even know what the word was, but that expansive, it just, yeah, when Jennifer said that, I was like, yes, like that's exactly how I felt, like so small and so expansive at the same time.
I love this. Thank you so much. So, anyone else who hasn't shared yet about what you experienced? What I would really value hearing, at least from everyone, is how the feminine process was for you and whether you felt like you were able to access the inner temple of the heart.
Okay. The feminine process was easier. And I was able to access the inner temple, and it was like explosive light. It wasn't dark at all like the sacred space. This is really bright. And I got a lot of messages that spend more time in nature, be more the healer. And, some other ones that were they're a little bit, I don't want to share right now because they're kind of heavy. So I don't want to put that out, but yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joy, would you be open to sharing?
Oh, yeah, I didn't really want to because I was enjoying listening to everybody else's. It's like, oh, that's so nice.
And you're in choice, so if you'd prefer not to share, that's fine.
Yeah, I might just pass this time. I guess I'll say that I actually found it easier to do the masculine way.
The masculine way?
Which was interesting because I really relate more to the feminine, except I think I'm just more practiced in the masculine and everything. So, yeah, but I think I'll pass on everything else.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the very last thing you said.
I was just saying, I think I'll pass on everything else at the moment.
Okay, that's totally fine.
Thank you.
So, thank you all very much. And I just want to briefly talk about the practices for this week. I want to say, one last thing, and this applies to everyone. If there's any question for you about whether you met your higher self or not, that's totally fine. And if you feel like you didn't meet your higher self, totally fine. And we're going to keep practicing this throughout the week. And if you keep practicing, it will come. So no problem, whatever your experience was. So the practice is to continue going into the inner temple of the heart, and to continue meeting with your higher self. And again, you're in choice, or your higher self is in choice, however you prefer, about whether this is your present time higher self or your higher self from another time, place, or dimension. And if you're not sure, you can always ask your higher self and they'll let you know. And you're in choice completely about whether you prefer to go in the masculine way or the feminine way, or if you get guided to another way. If you do get guided to another way, my request is that you let me know what your way is and what your process is, because I'd like to hear about that. Otherwise, I recommend staying to either the masculine or the feminine way for now. And then when you meet with your practice buddy, to connect with your experiences and share what your recent experiences are with the inner temple of the heart and the practice that you're engaging for going into the heart. So that's our practices for this week. Any questions about any of that? All righty then. I invite you to unmute yourself and we can share a goodbye.
Night, everyone.
Night. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.